My daughter stood at the bottom of the stairs, staring at the bricked-up doorway like it was breathing. Then she looked at me and said very calmly, "Daddy, the man says stop blocking his doorway with the picture." Here's the question. If that doorway was sealed centuries ago, who was still using it? Because by the end of this, you'll know why we left that 16th century coach house behind, and why I still can't stand to see a picture hung on old brick. Tonight's story is set in modern day, inside a 16th century coach house in Uffculme, Devon, a building converted into two homes, one side living space, the other once stables. The coach house was beautiful in daylight. Thick stone walls, low beams, old timber that smelled like time. But at night, it felt like the building remembered what it used to be. Not a home, a working place, animals, boots, wheels, weight. The layout mattered, because the haunting claim, if you want to call it that, was tied to one specific spot. Between the living quarters and the old stable section, there used to be a doorway. At some point, it was bricked up, sealed, finished, except it never felt finished. We hung a picture over that bricked-up doorway, just a normal framed print, straight, level, nothing dramatic. And that's when the first whisper started. Not a voice, a pattern. It began with the picture. We'd straighten it, we'd measure it, we'd leave it perfect, then we'd come back later, and it would be wrong. Not fallen, not smashed, just moved, not fallen. How does a picture shift on a wall without dropping? At first we blamed the wall. Old brick, uneven surface, a hook that wasn't biting, so we changed the hook, then we changed the wire, then we changed the frame. It still moved, always the same way, slightly off-center, like someone had nudged it aside. But that's not the worst part, because it wasn't random. It started happening after our daughter began talking about the man. The man. She was little, too young to invent a consistent story with the same details, and she didn't speak like she was imagining. She spoke like she was reporting. One evening she said, "He walks through there," and she pointed straight at the bricked-up doorway. We asked her what he looked like. She said, "He's got dark clothes, like work clothes, and he's in a hurry." Then she added one detail we didn't ask for. "He doesn't like the picture. He doesn't like the picture." But that's not the worst part. Because the next thing she said wasn't about him. It was about us. "He says you're blocking his doorway. He says you're blocking his doorway." Blocking. Not covering, not hiding, blocking, like it was still in use. We laughed, we did the adult thing, we tried to make it small, and that night, we heard horses in the yard. No neighbours with horses, no nearby stables close enough, no reason for that sound to be there. If the building remembered being stables, could it replay the sounds, or was something actually outside? Because when we checked, the yard was empty, but the sound didn't stop straight away. It faded, like something walking away. It faded, like footsteps. Then our dog changed. And if you've ever lived with a dog, you know what that means. He wouldn't go into the upstairs hallway. Not hesitant, not stubborn. Refusal. Why won't he go up there? He'd reach the top step and freeze, like there was an invisible line. Then he'd back away, nails clicking, eyes fixed on something we couldn't see. But that's not the worst part. Because the hallway upstairs led to bedrooms, and the bricked-up doorway was directly below it, like the house had a spine and something was moving along it. The peak moment didn't come with a bang. It came with a sentence. My daughter stood there again, staring at the bricked-up doorway, and she said, "Daddy, the man says stop blocking his doorway with the picture." Same words, same tone, like she'd been told to repeat it exactly. Repeat it exactly. I asked her, "Where is he now?" And she didn't point to the room. She pointed to the doorway. "He's there. He's waiting. He wants to go through." If he wanted to go through, where was he going? Into the stable side, or into us? And then, right on cue, the picture shifted. Not later, not the next day. In that moment, a small scrape, a tiny movement, like a hand had nudged the frame aside. Nothing to explain the movement. We heard it move. But that's not the worst part, because our dog, downstairs, started growling, not barking, not excited, a low warning. Quick question. If you were standing there and you heard a picture move on brick, would you take it down or would you leave it up just to prove it's nothing? Let's be fair. Old buildings do odd things, and fear can make patterns feel like proof. Let's test it. Theory 1. Paranormal. A coach house isn't just old, it's layered. Work, routine, urgency. People moving through doorways all day, every day. If something stayed behind, it makes sense it would attach to a path, a route, a doorway that mattered. And the wording, blocking his doorway, feels like a complaint from someone who still believes the door exists. But that's not the worst part, because if it was a spirit, it wasn't trying to scare us. It was trying to use the house. Theory 2. Psychological and social. Kids pick up on adult tension, they notice where we look, they sense when a spot in a house feels wrong, and once a story starts, adults can reinforce it without meaning to. A glance, a hush, a nervous laugh. But that theory struggles with one thing: the dog. Dogs don't play along for attention. The dog didn't play along. Theory 3. Practical, vibration, traffic, a frame settling, temperature changes making the wire slip. And the horses? Could be wind, could be pipes, could be distant sound carrying at night. But here's the problem: the timing, the way it happened when she spoke, the way it happened when we were watching. How does settling wait for a sentence? Here's what we know so far: a bricked-up doorway, a picture that repeatedly shifted, a child describing a man walking through sealed brick, horses heard in an empty yard, a dog refusing an upstairs hallway, and one message delivered more than once: stop blocking his doorway. My verdict: I believe the events were real, not real like a story. Real like a pattern you can't unsee, like the house belonged to him. What still doesn't add up is the purpose. If the man was there, why did he care about a picture? Because it wasn't decoration to him. It was an obstruction, a modern object blocking an old route. And that's the part that keeps me awake. Not that he appeared, but that he acted like the house belonged to him. We didn't solve it. We didn't cleanse the house. We didn't confront anything. We did the most honest thing we could do. We left. One question for you: if your child calmly reported a message like that, word for word, would you believe them, or would you explain it away until it followed you upstairs? Would you believe your child? If you want more evidence-led stories from real places, especially here in Devon, subscribe. No hype, no nonsense, just the details. Click the next video on screen. Next, the hallway the dog wouldn't enter. Because that upstairs hallway, that's where the story gets worse. And whatever was using that doorway didn't always stay downstairs.